Hey there, and welcome to another episode of Tips and Tech Talk. I'm your host, Ron, today with fellow licensed drone pilot, Connor Steinwascher from Aerial Coverage. And today we're going to be flying our drones. We're both flying our DJI Phantom 4 Pros out by Jimmy John's Field behind Epler. But ultimately, we're here to talk about the big topics of the drone world today. One of the most common asked questions I get is, where can I fly, where can't I fly? So let's talk about some of the no-fly zone lists. Where can people fly their drones and where can't people fly their drones?
Really, it depends on airspace and understanding the types of airspace you're in. So breaking it down pretty simple here. Here on the east side of Michigan, we have Selfridge Air National Guard. And what that means is basically you cannot fly anywhere around that Air Force base, right? You cannot fly around any airports, and you cannot fly around any temporary flight restriction zones, such as sporting events, such as Tigers games, Lions games, Red Wings games, and you are also not allowed to fly over any type of presidential movement.
So like when President Trump was here a couple of months ago,
correct,
the airspace was shut down.
Correct, basically. So the airspace coming from M53 to M59 and M59 north to about 31 mile was all a TFR zone up until about 10,000 feet.
So as far as other rules and regulations, as far as where you can and can't fly, a lot of people wonder, can you fly over someone's house?
There is a lot of misconceptions usually about where and where can't you fly a drone and when can you fly a drone. And I think the biggest one, right, that especially doing real estate, is flying over people's houses. You are able to. Anything above someone's house is all national airspace and it's all federally regulated. So as much as it doesn't sound great, right? It's all national airspace, and we think about it on a bigger perspective, right? There are planes flying in the sky and helicopters flying in the sky all the time above people's houses.
Right. With that said, that doesn't give you a license to be a jerk and try to bully somebody, because
not at all.
Yeah.
And I think that's where you have a concern that someone's not following the laws. You know that they may be a professional pilot. Different things along those lines. You're able to go to the FAA.gov/UAS website, and you're able to file a complaint there.
So a lot of people know that you have to keep a drone under 400 feet. You have to keep it within line of sight. But there's a lot of rules and regulations that you have that a certified licensed drone pilot has to adhere to. Talk to me about some of the lesser known rules that are mandatory for pilots.
Is flight over people. So you technically cannot fly a drone directly over somebody that is not part of the operation.
Another common issue among drone pilots is what the FAA is doing to regulate these rules. Talk a little bit about that, would you?
Yeah, so one of the big misconceptions that a lot of people don't fully understand is that the FAA is fully for drones. At least that's what the leadership board shows. They are just like any other type of government, though, where they do move very slowly. So their drone regulations right now are behind. Part 107 came out and kind of just blanketed over everything. So as we look into moving into this fall, for example, we're looking at new initiatives by the FAA to make things easier for pilots to file for waivers and loosen up some of these laws, for these pilots can fully use drones to the maximum potential that drones can be used for.
I've been following this since drones were first introduced to the public back in 2011, 2012, is when I first started following and getting involved in drones. And the FAA has been right there in lockstep with some of the luminaries and some of the advocates for the drone industry. So I've been very pleased with the FAA's involvement. The truth of the matter is these things are so rock solid, so with the technology that is in all these drones, whether you're talking about DJI or other companies, with that technology in mind, the fact that they are rock solid, what impact, if any, will that have on the FAA regarding future regulation?
Yeah, so I think as the technology advances and we see these drones become a little safer, I think the FAA is going to start guiding back and allowing for more and different operations that they currently restricted.
Because there are some like current autonomous drones, like the Uber drone, the Deicing. Talk about some of these drones that people might not know about that is exactly the type of future drones we're talking about.
Yeah, so right now Uber is getting ready to launch passenger drones over in Dubai. So it was one of their big proposed things. So when you order an Uber over in Dubai, what you might be getting into is a drone. Drones being used for de-icing, and drones being used to spray and lift different things. Over in Sweden right now, they're doing testings on different drones that connect to a hose, and you're able to de-ice wind turbines and airplanes and very other large objects at a much quicker rate than what you typically do it now at.
And so what would you say to somebody who uses a drone who maybe isn't a licensed drone pilot? Because I'm of the belief that even if you do this for a hobby, I think you should still go and take the test. What's your thoughts on that?
If you're flying drones and you want to continue to be safe, it's always better to know what you can and can't do before you do something you can't do and you end up getting in trouble for it.
Or someone gets hurt.
Or someone gets hurt.
All right. I want to thank Connor for joining me today on Tips and Tech Talk. If you like this video, please share it with your friends. Hit that like icon. Also, go to my YouTube channel. Share that with all your friends. Subscribe if you haven't done already. And, of course, you can see more of my work at RonRobinsonStudios.com. Thanks for joining me. We'll see you next time for another episode of Tips and Tech Talk.